Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's conversation with the filmmakers. Today I have all the way from Norway, Mr. Christopher Nicholson, and he is the director for one of the short documentaries that we have for this year's festival, Discoverer of Discoverers. It's a very interesting title, and we're going to go straight into it. But as usual, my name is Alice Johnson, and I'm your host for today. We're going to have a nice conversation. Also, don't forget that the reason why we are having this conversation in the first place is because the festival is just around the corner, happening from the 31st of July till the 5th of August. So keep it locked on our social media pages, always be follow us, and then also get to know when exactly every single workshop, program, film screening is happening so that you don't miss any of the details. So welcome today, Mr. Christopher Nicholson. I don't know if it's okay if I just call you Christopher.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, welcome, Christopher.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
very happy to be here and I'm very grateful to be a part of this festival.
Yeah, we are really happy to have you here as well. And just a quick one, how is the weather in Norway?
Right now it's raining a lot. We've had not really a heat wave, almost like a heat wave. They've had that in Southern Europe and it's been very, very hot here. But now the rains, the heavens opened and now it's raining a lot.
Wow, it's interesting because it's almost the same with Accra, or at least where I am in Accra. It's rains and then it's for I think 2 days ago it was really hot and then it just rained this morning and then I see the sun is trying to fight its way through as well. But hey, I guess it's just a confused weather more or less. But then hey, well, we're happy to be alive and today we're going to be having a conversation. So I'll just go straight into reading your bio. Mr. Christopher Nicholson is a British-Norwegian filmmaker based in Oslo, Norway. Aside from a BA in Philosophy and Social Anthropology, he holds a BA in Film and TV Production from the University of Westminster and has worked as a director, story producer, and editor for 15 years, mainly in TV. And The Discoverer of the Discoverers is his directorial debut in cinematic documentary. And imagine for a directorial debut, it's already making rounds in festivals. So I'd like to say congratulations to you and Christopher on that. Yes. So straight into it, I'd like to know your journey. I mean, this is your directorial debut, but you do have a background in film and tell us, and for 15 years, you've been in TV. So tell us your journey into from TV or transitioning from TV into filmmaking.
Yeah, sure. It's funny actually because I did study film and TV production in London. Uh, at that time, I wanted to do screenwriting for fiction, and it's a fun fact as well. One of my fellow students on the course with me, David Anderson, also has a film screening at the Accra Indie Film Fest. And I
No.
haven't even seen him since that, since I don't know 2006. So it was funny that we were both at the same festival.
That's interesting.
That was exciting, and
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I discovered maybe I was a bit stupid. I don't know, but I discovered as I was studying that actually I didn't want to do fiction, but I was more interested. I became more interested in nonfiction, in documentary. And yeah, and at the time after that, it was. I think for most people, it's difficult to break into the industry. I mean, you can get work maybe, but it's if you want to direct, it's not done in a jiffy. You have to pay some dues, and so I worked as an editor for a long time, and that's a very good way of learning the trade because you see what works and what doesn't work in the editing room. So it's not a bad idea, but it wasn't really what I wanted to do. And I ended up in television because it's a lot easier here in Norway to get work in the TV industry than in the film industry. So it was a bit circumstantial, but after a while, I wasn't happy working in television, and but I didn't really know how to make the jump, but I was lucky and I met a very good cinematographer called Peder Bratterud. He's also a brilliant editor, and we are sort of it was partners in crime basically. And you know, doing something on your own is very difficult, but if you're two, you know, it's a lot easier.
Right.
And so
That's
we decided, well, we just need to use some initiative and start a project. And we didn't know what to do at first, but then I'd been to Benin and I'd seen some things there that blew my mind. I've never been to a country with as much culture as Benin, with cultural expressions of all sorts. It was mind blowing to me, and I thought, well, let's try and do something there, and we did, and we just started filming something, and we thought, we'll use that to try and get funding, but then we never got any funding, so.
wow.
So we just pushed on and you know, worked a lot, saved up money. I worked in TV as an editor and story producer and director sometimes, just to try and get the money. And also because we worked in that field in TV, we were able to get some favors from, you know, sound engineers, sound recordists, people like that. We could get maybe a sort of a good deal on renting equipment sometimes. So that was helpful. But we really had to push through without any funding. So that was it's taken a long time.
I can only imagine. We always have stories of filmmakers always struggling with funding. But before that, you mentioned in in your submission that it's easier to get to TV in Norway than it is to work in film. Why would you say that is?
I'm not sure. I think in Norway, people are very concerned with doing things the correct way or a certain kind of way, and that's the only way, and everybody should do it that way. And I think if you want to work in film, they have a film school, for instance. And if you are accepted to the film school, then I think it's a lot easier to get into the film industry because people who work in the film industry reach out to the film school, and there's this whole way of doing it. If you want to break into it from another angle, it's difficult because there's a sort of a lack of imagination, I think, maybe. I don't know, but it's very Norwegians are very, very particular about doing things a set way, the way that it's been done. And I think also there's maybe a lot more people would like to work in film. It has a higher prestige, I suppose, than television.
Right.
And I think also when I was studying in London, if I wanted to be an editor in London after I finished film school, I would maybe have to work for 5 or 10 years as an assistant editor. But in Norway, they lack people. They lack skilled people. So without any experience, you could maybe get a job as an editor if you just hustled enough, you know. So, but it's been good to me. It's been very good for me to gain that experience in television because I've also been able to do different tasks, you know, like editing, directing, story producing. So you learn a lot of different skills. Yeah.
Amazing. And how long did it take you to work on this particular project? I mean, going to Benin, or first of all, let's talk about your experience in Benin, soaking in all the strong and rich cultural heritage of the people and deciding that you wanted to do something there. How easy or difficult was it for you to immerse yourself in Benin and actually be accepted?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know to which degree I was accepted, but I was. It wasn't so difficult because I had initially the main project was not this short film. I'm also making a feature documentary that I'm editing at the moment.
Okay.
And that was the primary project. And in that film, the main character, her name is Martine de Souza. she's a tremendous fixer and just has connections and a lot of experience as well with documentary filmmaking, fiction filmmaking. She's worked with historians, anthropologists. So she has a lot of experience and also a lot of a big network. And working with her was very, very helpful. And I think when we showed up alongside her, that also gave us, it was sort of vouchers for us in a sense. Mm-hmm. So, and I think, I don't know, it's difficult to say to which degree we were accepted. But after a while, we noticed that when we would show up again and again, people would be steadily more welcoming, right? So we had 3 1-month stays in Benin where we would be on shoots. And for each successive time we went to Benin, people were just a little bit more welcoming each time, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. I mean, it's commonplace. Even in Ghana, for instance, it's not easy for you to infiltrate. For someone like me, who is not in an indigenous of a particular town, even for me to go there, because one, I do not speak their local language, I may not look like someone that they see every day. They have that, prejudice of some sort, but then they look at me with a different filter, I would say. Maybe that's the better way to put it. So they're like, okay, what's she doing here? What does she want? And just come in. And so I can only imagine for you, especially because you're of a different race, and then they may not even understand your language. But I mean, the most important thing is that the project was able to be done. And today we are here for the festival screening. So congratulations on that as well. And then I would just like to get into, you said you had 3 1-month-long stays in Benin. And over what period was this film shot? So was it like you would go spend a week and come back, or like was it over a year? Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, well, we went, first I'd been to Benin, I think 3 times. Okay. Or it might have been 2 times. I can't remember, just without a camera crew, just to go there, just because I love being there. And then I would spend about a month or 3 weeks maybe each time. And then the first shoot was, we went at December 2016 and lasting into January 2017. And then I think we went again, sort of December, January 2017, 2018. And then we went in October 2019. So those are the time periods. And because for us, it was, well, for me, it was a financial burden, right? Because I had to get tickets, I had to buy flights for all the crew and myself. I had to pay all the expenses for the crew, living expenses. So I had to sort of every time try and save up money, and I couldn't go back and forth. So we had to sort of try and go there and stay, but we couldn't stay too long because the crew members needed to have paid work, right? So they had to return to Norway. So that was a little bit tricky to get that done. Like for the first trip we did, we had a sound recordist for 2 weeks, and then we had to fly him out and then fly another one in for the 2 remaining weeks. So, but we were very lucky that they were, the sound recorders were willing to work for no pay, but they would get all their expenses paid on the trip. And, they really enjoyed experience in Benin. To them it was as we all did, I think. Yeah.
Interesting. It's very interesting, the struggles, because I've had a number of conversations, I mean, prior to this one, with filmmakers who have the same issues of funding, of just being able to get support for their projects, people coming together to make things work for them, really. And it's a beautiful, beautiful aspect of filmmaking, that people just come together, make things work, and then we reap the benefits by the festivals and all of that. Not necessarily that the funding comes immediately, but then it's a slow process. And hopefully once you get cemented into the sands of time that this is someone that we can trust, and then they will give you the funding. But then I would like to know what the structure of funding is like in Norway. So if you are in an indie filmmaker and you want to probably make a film and you have your script, you have everything, maybe you just have a pilot idea or just something that you've put together, a proposal. What is the process like, and what are some of the successful stories you've heard?
Right. The normal way, I suppose you'd say, is that you have to get public funding. You have to get funding from various sort of foundations first. Reason for this is Norway has less than 5.5 million people, and that's the language group. That's the, that. So, and film is an expensive medium in terms of making it. So it's practically impossible to make a profit by making a Norwegian film in a Norwegian language. So you have to seek funding from a sort of a state-run foundation. We have the Norwegian Film Institute, which is the largest one, and practically all films that are made have funding from the Norwegian Film Institute. But before you get there, you need to get funding from, let's say the Regional Film Institute for whatever region where you're from, and you might have to get from some other foundations, because the Norwegian Film Institute demands that you have partial funding in place before you get the larger pot of money from them.
Right.
So, but then it leads to all these sort of Kafkaesque scenarios, right? Because, I remember we went to the Regional Film Institute to pitch the film, and then they say, we don't grant money for a film that has a budget above 2 million krona, which is our currency, krona. And the average documentary film in Norway has a budget that's twice that amount.
Wow.
So you have to sort of make a short film. Even though you want to make a feature film, you have to make a short film. And then later on you have to ask, we made this short film, now we want to turn it into a feature-length film. Can we get more money? And then you have to make another film, the film you intended to make. Yeah, so it's very cumbersome, and it's very impractical. And I think somebody told me that the average time from when somebody applies for funding to the premiere of the film for a documentary in the Nordic countries is 10 years.
Wow.
And that is, an untenable situation. And and so I noticed after a while that as I was seeking funding, that it would take me longer to work in the kind of official way. The film would, the production period would just extend. So even though it's more of a burden, like on me financially, personally, at least I can make something and not have to wait that long. And so, and then I don't know, there's also this question of people who provide the funding. Do they meddle creatively with what you want to do? And I've heard different, some filmmakers in Norway have had horrible experiences and stopped making films because they're meddling from whatever funder there was. But others have very positive, very good experiences. And so it's difficult to say, really. But the films that have done best lately have been films. Well, there was a film called The Worst Person in the World, a fiction film, and that did really well. It went to Cannes, and I think it won some prizes at Cannes and things like that. But that's quite rare. But I think you have to try and get into the system, and then what I'm trying to do is just make some films, and then hopefully once I establish that I am a legitimate filmmaker, maybe then I will get money. Who knows?
Yes, so we're hopeful about that, and then we appreciate that you put such work into this beautiful masterpiece that is The Discoverer of Discoverers. And
thank you.
I have watched it, and I I really hope that whoever is watching this wants to watch it or does come to the festival from 31st of July till the 5th of August to come and watch it because it is beautiful. And now let's get into the making of this particular documentary. How how did the concept just come to mind? I mean, you said you had visited Benin a number of times, 3 times prior, and all before you even began the filming. But then prior to that, you were just intrigued by them. But then, what made you spot this particular theme and go like, "This is what I really want to speak on"?
Sure. My initial idea for this feature-length film that I'm making was to tell the story of the Atlantic slave trade as it was in one town in Benin called Ouida, but told through ancestor worship. Because it was a bit of a coincidence, but when I went there, I saw these masquerades, and then some Yoruba masquerades called the Egungun. I don't. Do you have them in Ghana as well, or?
Yes, we have that, but they're not called egungun. They have a different name for them. Yes, depending on where you are in the country. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So when I saw these, it was actually the initial reason I went to Benin. I'd seen some pictures by a photojournalist called Dan Kitwood, and these pictures were from Ouida in Benin, and I was mesmerized by these images, by the artistry of the masquerade. I'd never seen anything like it, and so that was the sole reason I went to Benin, and I didn't know anything about it either, you know. And I went there, and they told me what it meant and what they were, and that these masquerades were sort of the ancestors come back from the land of the dead, and then they told me about how the only reason these masquerades were in Ouida was because the families had come, well, Yoruba families had been brought there as enslaved people, and these people we were watching were, you know, the enslaved people who had returned, basically. And I thought, oh, maybe I can sort of tell the story of the Atlantic slave trade, but not do reconstructions, but you could see the people in front of you, and we could film it. That was the sort of initial idea. And but then, you know, things turned out a little bit differently. But with I did a lot of research. I tried to read everything I could about the history, about the religion, about everything. And I came across the story of the Patenon family, which is in the short film, The Discoverers is about this family and their story about how their ancestor had discovered Portuguese explorers. And I was fascinated. Again, it goes into ancestor worship, you know, but we discovered that we didn't have room for this in the feature length, and it was its own story. It deserved its own film in a way. And so it was basically from these footnotes in a history book that I learned of the story of the Patnon family. And to me, it was very fascinating, the story of, you know, because being from Europe, you know, I've read books from the Western perspective, but we rarely hear anything about the other side of the story. And so that was very, very fascinating to me to hear that. And then also when we were there, it turned out that the head of the family had passed away sometime previously. And while we're filming, they said to us, well, you know, we're enthroning a new head of the family. And that was a pure coincidence. We were there. I mean, it happens once a generation or something. And, yeah, so, and then I obviously I asked, well, would we be allowed to film this enthronement or installment ceremony? And the head of the family, he said, well, since you're the first Europeans to come to me, and my ancestor, you know, discovered Europeans, I can't say no, because that's, you know, a sign. And so it was sort of a stroke of luck for us, or you know, and it's after that, everything that we filmed was a bit by accident in a way. It felt like we like we would film the head of the family in front of his shop,
Mm.
a car dealership, and I was expecting him to show up in a business suit, from my own assumptions. And then he showed up, and he's actually a mystic. I didn't know this about him, but he is a voodoo priest and a mystic, and he showed up in voodoo garb, and it's very visually striking, but also very interesting in other ways. And I loved how this is what I love about documentary filmmaking is that you lose so much control, like some
Mm-hmm.
things, and then you run with it. And I like how I feel like in this film there's a lot of contribution from the
Mm.
people in front of the camera that is beyond my control, and I really like that.
Yes, and I'm sure the audience will also like that. So we are entreating everyone to come and watch The Discoverer of Discoverers, and it's beautiful. It's something even though it's not in the English language, we have subtitles, so you definitely enjoy it. And that's the beauty of film, transcending beyond language, culture. It's a beautiful experience. And so before we just wrap up, I just want this to be as brief as possible because we're trying to tease people to come and watch the film. Um, Tell us when you are not making films, when you're not being Christopher the filmmaker, what do you love to do?
Well, doing what I do is very time consuming to me. So I do love to travel.
Mm,
Love to write. I haven't published anything, but I hope to do so one day. Uh,
mm,
I love to read, and yeah, but I do have to say that what I do is very time consuming because I work in the daytime. I work in TV, and then in the evenings I try to work on my own projects.
so,
So it does become very time
mm,
consuming. But yeah, travel has been one of my main interests, but it's become less. It's become more increasingly difficult to get to travel. You had the pandemic, but also financially, all my money goes to my projects, so I can't really afford it. And I also become increasingly aware of this sort of carbon footprint. So
mm,
I try not to fly. If I can travel by train or bus, maybe I'll do that. But that means I can't travel that far. Like my preference is to travel to places that are completely different from what I'm used to, and that will challenge me and make me think differently about things that I take for granted. And yeah.
right.
And in that respect, Benin has been amazing. Learned a lot from being there, and I've heard a lot about Ghana as well. People speak very highly of Ghana, so that's a place I really want to go as well.
Yes.
So because I don't really speak French in Benin, you have to get by with my horrible French, but in Ghana, I actually speak English. That would be
Yes, yes, and we'd love to have you. It's quite unfortunate you can't join us physically for the festival, but then again, another beautiful thing about film, it doesn't really matter if you're here or there. I mean, we are having this conversation like we are sitting face to face, but then just look at what technology has done for us. So, final thoughts, and then what to expect from you in the coming months, weeks, years.
Well, right now, of course, there's this film that's doing the festival rounds. I'm also concurrently working on a feature-length documentary, also set in Benin. And there might even be a second short film from that footage because we shot so much.
Right.
So I'm working on that. And I also just finished a sort of a concert film by an artist called Michael Gerard. I don't know whether that will be released or not.
Okay.
But that's also in the works. And I hope that will be published in the coming weeks and months. Yeah, I'm always trying to think of other projects. So we'll see what I can do. But yeah, the thing to look out for, I suppose, is the feature-length documentary. The working title is "A Stranger Has No Eyes," which
Hmm.
is from I read a Yoruba proverb once that says, strangers have no eyes. I think it means something like you can't really read a situation or in particular with the Egungun, for instance, you can't really understand what you're watching unless you're initiated, you know. And I thought that was a very fitting title for me as a foreigner who goes there and films things and tries to understand, but there will always be things that are beyond my grasp. So yeah, I'm excited about this. I think it will be a very good film, this feature-length one. I'm very excited about it, and I'm really looking forward to having that made. Yeah.
Nice. We are also looking forward to all the exciting projects you have coming in the future. And thank you for giving us a teaser of the feature film. And then it will be lovely to see it. And we wish you all the very best with all the projects that you have coming forward. And then also we are also excited to have the film The Discoverer of the Discoverers screening at this year's festival from 31st of July to the 5th of August 2023 at Alliance Française. And we'd like to say a big thank you to Alliance Française for supporting us throughout our journeys. And then also we'd like to say a big thank you to Christopher Nicholson for joining us all the way from Norway today for this conversation. And it's our hope that in the coming future, we'll have a lot of funding for more projects so that you can get a chance to have your projects all over the world. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be a part of this festival. So, and it's the African premiere, you know, it's important for me to show this film. You know, it's not the same as Benin, but I haven't been able to show it in Benin yet. And important for me to not just go and film something and take it away and not present it to the people who are in it or so it's film is like a conversation that way, and I would like to bring that conversation back to where we filmed it. And so far the closest has been Ghana, but I hope that there will be more in the region in the coming months.
Yes, we hope so too. So thank you, and do enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.